because that was a shower of shit.
I'll stand by it. This is more Shane Waldron. I want Shane Waldron out of the door before you get Geno out the door.
There are other forces at play there that are not pulling their weight, and we're still expecting the same standard from Geno.
Oh yeah, he just does what he wants. He's a fucking monster. So they come as a pair. So think Geno's bad, think Waldron's bad. They're both to blame because they're in bed with each other.
He is sexy to watch. That's what the S in JSN stands for. It's not Smith. It's Jackson, sexy and Jigba. So that's awful. That's absolutely horrendous.
Mafe straps. So fuck's sake. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Seahawks and football fans everywhere, a very warm welcome back to the We Talk Seahawks podcast. I hope you're all doing well. Have you all had a lie down? Have you all had a drink? Have you all had some antidepressants? Have you all taken everything that you've needed to take following that pretty horrendous, pathetic, embarrassing loss, 37-3. It was fireworks in the UK, bonfire night here in the UK. It certainly wasn't fireworks for the Seattle Seahawks offense or Geno Smith. You could maybe put a rocket up his arse potentially instead of setting it off in the sky. There's so much to get into tonight, so do stick with us all the way through if you can, because there's going to be plenty of opinions flying around the room. We're all coming at this from different angles. We're all going to tell right, get that chat. It's started, hasn't it? We've started. The train's already coming off the track. We're coming at it from all the different angles tonight. I'm angry at certain people. Pez is angry at certain people. Mitch is somewhere in between. So there's plenty of different opinions and angles coming at you tonight. But before I get into it, as always, Mr. Positive. Are you positive this week, and how are you doing?
No,
didn't think so.
No. Do you know why? It's because we've not done a positive Pez in ages. I feel like we need to bring it back. We need to get a bit ridiculous. This pod might be difficult, but it might be the perfect pod to get the segment back in there. Let's just get a bit of positivity back in the boys, because that was a shower of shit. I watched it. So my wife, I'm trying to slowly get her into the NFL. But if I make her watch one more Seahawks game, I'm going to derail all that, because she watched the Bengals game and she watched this game. Now, she doesn't know. Fault. Yes, well, I'm starting to think this, Mitch. Is she a bad omen? Is she not? I don't know.
I mean, she's got a horrible record.
She's got a horrible record. Third time's the charm. If she watches it on Sunday with me and we do Shides against them Commanders, then she's banished from any NFL ever. But she was even there. Like, she's watched a couple of games. She's been on a couple of London games with me. She watched Geno Smith and she was shouting at the telly. She was going mad, going, what is this guy doing? Like, she doesn't, fair enough. She doesn't know anything from Adam, but she was just like, he's useless. He's not doing anything. Why is he just stood there? And granted, she don't understand the ways of it, but I think that tells you for yourself with how bad Geno was that day, because she was like, she even turned around and went, so you traded for that guy? Can you not just trade him away? I went, we wish it was that simple.
She might be onto something. John Schneider's looking over his shoulder now, because if she's in charge, I'll tell you what, we might become a better football team. Mitch, how are you doing?
For GM.
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, we're very lucky in the UK when we watch the NFL, because when the game ends, it's the end of our Sunday typically. I feel sorry for everyone in the US that were supporting the Seahawks yesterday, because it essentially starts their day if you're the 10 a.m. kickoff. So they had to just endure a day of pain, and I got to just tranquilize myself and forget that it happened. So I've dealt with it that way, and I'm not particularly happy. And I think the reason I'm least happy is probably the fact that it feels like we've had a bit of a false dawn. Like, we got really hyped for our new defense. Beginning of the season, we felt like our trio of wide receivers was one of the best in the league, and we've got all these reasons to feel like we have the second coming of our franchise. And sometimes they say 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I feel a little bit like that was 3 steps back. So yeah, it's that false dawn kind of feeling that's really sort of knocked the stuffing out of me this week, I would say.
Knocked the stuffing, knocked the belief, knocked the confidence, knocked a lot of things out of me. So we'll start, as I always do, with a rundown of the stat lines here. 550. But by the way, just in case you're not familiar with the way the game went on Sunday, this isn't going to be pretty, so just bear with me for a second here. Put your hands over your ears or something. 515 total yards for the Baltimore Ravens, 151 for the Seahawks, 217 passing yards to Seattle's 123. Baltimore's 298 rushing yards to Seattle's 28. 6.9 yards per play to Seattle's 3.2. Baltimore with 29 first downs to Seattle's 6. Third down efficiency, 6 for 13. Baltimore. Seattle were 1 for 12. Fourth down efficiency, 1 for 2 for Baltimore, 0 for 1 for Seattle. 75 total plays for Baltimore, 47 for the Seahawks. Baltimore only allowing 1 sack, Seattle allowing 4. Baltimore only punted the ball twice. Seattle punted it 7 times. Baltimore only had 3 penalties for 11 yards. Seattle 5 penalties for 29. 2 fumbles for Baltimore and the fumble for Seattle. And of course, Geno's interception. And the time of possession, 40 minutes for Baltimore, 19 minutes and 56 seconds for Seattle. I've stopped. Oh, no, sorry, I've got to read Geno's out. 13 for 28, 157 yards passing, 0 touchdowns. And the interception, and 2 yards, 2 carries for 4 yards rushing as well.
Do you know the funny stat about Geno?
Go on.
Go and check the Ram stats. Except for Geno had maybe 20 yards passing more than Brett Rippon. They had an identical throw-in to completion record, 13 for 28. Geno had a couple more yards, but they both had an interception and fumble without any touchdowns. That is the standard that Geno decided he was going to come and play in Baltimore that day. That was amazing. Great.
Well,
super fun.
I'm going to let you crack on about Geno in a little bit. I'll start us off tonight. And I'll start it with a disclaimer that I'm not happy with how Geno Smith performed either. It's not ideal at all. But for me, this is more, and I said it last week, and I'll stand by it. This is more Shane Waldron. I want Shane Waldron out of the door before you get Geno out the door, in my opinion. Now, only the Lions game, I would say, this season, our offense has actually looked good. We've got away with it every single other game, and it's been awful every single other game. We got away with it against the Lions. I said, didn't get away with it against the Rams. Only just got away with it against the Panthers, got away with it against the Giants, and to be fair, that was more the defense against the Giants. Didn't get away with it against the Bengals, got away with it against the Cardinals, got away with it against the Browns, and obviously did not get away with anything against the Ravens. It is absolutely baffling to me, Shane Waldron, as an offensive coordinator. We've got about as banged up as an offensive line as you could hope to have. You've got 41-year-old Jason Peters out there on quite a few snaps. You've got Charles Cross, who is nowhere near 100% fit. You've got no Abraham Lucas. You've got Storm Forsyth playing at right tackle. We had no Anthony Bradford last game. So we've got guys on the interior of the offensive line playing positions they're not familiar with and putting round pegs in square holes and all this kind of stuff. So what gives our offense the best chance, Geno Smith the best chance, against a Ravens front seven and a Ravens defensive line in particular that is about as good as you get in the NFL in terms of pass rush, in terms of the ferocity that they play with on that defense? They are an absolutely exceptional defense, an elite defense. So what's the best way to help our offensive line out that, like I say, is banged up and got guys aren't playing in their natural positions? Well, it's 12 and 13 personnel sets. And what did we do? Absolutely none of against Baltimore. 12 and 13 personnel sets. We're one of the best teams when we run 12 personnel, when we run 13 personnel in the NFL. We're one of the best teams out here in the NFL. Shane Waldron is a former tight ends coach who said this on the podcast before, and yet we just ran 11 personnel all game. No even attempt to get the tight ends involved. Do you know our tight ends only had 1 catch between the 3, and that was Colby Parkinson. Disley and Fant got 1 target and no reception each. it's absolutely pathetic. You completely abandoned the run game with 28 rushing yards. I mean, are we having a laugh? Are we actually having a laugh? And I just do not understand where Jake Bobo's gone in that game. Jake Bobo's been electric for the last 2 games, exceptional every time. Absolutely nothing from him. It's for me. This is just absolutely week on week on week of absolutely pathetic play calling from Shane. I'm sorry to use that word, but it is pathetic. Look at the way the Ravens played an offense. Do they take deep shots down the field? Do they try and do anything sexy or amazing with their receivers or in the market? No. Dipped and dived, quick underneath stuff, read option from Lamar as he does, but they weren't taking deep shots down the field. They weren't trying to force the ball down the field. It was just nice, efficient play calling, screens, little 10-yard crossing routes, all that kind of stuff. It was nothing complex. Why, when we call a play, when Shane Waldron calls a play, does it have to be a sexy, complex double move routes that take 5 seconds worth of pass protection to get off? We've not got a clean pocket. We had no clean pocket all game, and the one time we had a clean pocket, which to that DK throw for about 60 yards, was that throw, and one of Geno's better throws of the game. When Geno had time in this game, he made some outstanding throws. That throw to Lockett, firing that through the needle, absolutely outstanding throw. Some great throws to JSN, or both under pressure and not under pressure. But for 95% of his throws and dropbacks that he's under pressure, the pocket is collapsing. Why are you calling plays that take a clean pocket? Geno is a pocket passer.
I pick up a little bit on some of the stuff you said there. I completely agree with the 12 and 13 personnel, because our only complaint when we were doing that was we're not targeting JSN enough. But back then we had a running game off playing with extra blockers and tight ends, and we were able to get the running game going. So then suddenly when there was 12-13 personnel out there, they were expecting the run, and then Geno could start connecting some throws. When you do a certain thing and threaten something, you can then you can do that thing and then go to something else in the same look. But when we do what we did against the Ravens, which was stop throwing the deep ball because we don't have enough time in the pocket, that condenses everything, so the safeties come up, and then suddenly they're blitzing with the safeties as well, which compounds that problem, and then we can't run the ball at all. They systematically removed things from our offense until it was incredibly controllable and predictable. And they did it to us time after time, and we showed absolutely no capacity to improvise or adapt with our play calling to what was going on. And because we couldn't adapt, we stayed on the back foot the whole time. And both of those things I've mentioned there are offensive line issues, because we didn't have enough time to throw, and offensive play calling. And do you know when I knew we were going to lose this game? When we didn't score on our opening drive, because Shane Waldron's saving grace all season has been that his script for the opening drive has scored us points every single game. Even in the games we've lost, he's scored points. As soon as they bottled up Geno in the first drive, I thought, well, shit, we're in trouble here, because that's the only thing from Waldron that has been good this year. Everything after that was problematic. So Geno was not good for me. He was not good. He didn't handle that situation very well. He didn't put us on his back like Lamar Jackson did. Granted, they're clearly not the same caliber of player, but Geno didn't do anything to sort of step up and take it upon himself. Didn't sort of get inspired. Didn't sort of pull himself out of the mire. But I completely agree that, like, your quarterback getting red hot is one thing, your offensive line giving him time is another, and your offensive coordinator calling good plays is that's the trifecta of good offense. Right. And we didn't have two of those at all.
Right. I can see James is ready to blow a gasket at some of them things. He went off in the Discord at some of the things about Geno. So I just want to reiterate to anyone who's listening that we all agree on Geno's failures at the moment himself. The O-line, banged up O-line, Waldron, everything. We do all agree. before it descends into chaos. I just want to get that out there. We're all just trying to pick it from different angles, from like how we're feeling, what we're seeing, so we can try and like almost answer the questions, what we're seeing on Twitter, what people are chucking out there. Like, there's a lot of hate on Geno at the moment. I agree with Mitch, right? But it's something that James has said in the past is Geno isn't like Lamar. He isn't. But the fan in me, the passion and excitement I have to watch this team, I couldn't give a shit, because it comes across to me. So I'm talking about my irrational. Come into the Discord if you're not in there, and you'll see irrational during the game. My irrational fan reaction to it is when you like explain Geno, my rational brain was like, you do make sense, James. My irrational brain was like, fuck off, because you're almost saying you're just accepting the fact that Geno isn't good enough, and we've just got to deal with that. But my irrational fan brain's like, fuck that. Mitch is completely right. Geno isn't a Lamar Jackson, and I want a Lamar Jackson. I am sick of seeing a guy who looks inept on the field, even when he has a good O-line. When that O-line holds up, and everything's sweet, interception, pass. Waldron, the O-line, no one throws them passes except him. He has a clean pocket. He scans the field. I said it before we came on. He must be, with the way he's throwing interceptions, he must be the most readable quarterback. Teams must be able to watch tape on that guy and go, he stares down. He does this. You hear it all the time with like quarterbacks who aren't great at disguising.
Can I just throw that in there, though? Do you not think that some of that has to be down to Waldron, though, calling these readable players because he's not getting tight ends involved, so we become predictable?
Or giving up the run game, so it's going to be a pass.
Right. But then, yeah, you are right with all what you're saying there. I'll chuck my little piece in from what I think about Waldron, like listening to people's opinions on everything. But we're just at the moment with Geno, it's like that could be the case, but he is also on that football field. He is essentially the leader. This then questions. So what you said there to me then just questions the decision making. JSN, when that interception happened that game, there was two defenders, if not a third, close by in the proximity, all around him. The defender, JSN was like here, if I remember correctly. This defender, he was reading Geno. JSN didn't even have his head round properly, and he'd let the ball go. And it's like, mate, how can you not read that? How can you not see that situation? Like, how can you not understand that's a dangerous situation? I'm just going to not risk it and throw it away. Like, so many times with the guy, he does things like that, what really frustrate me. But again, like I always have done, because I don't want this to harp onto a bench Geno, get him dead, because I was the first one to say it. James reiterated it. I don't think the Drew Lock experience, he might be able to scramble more, so he might get a little bit more exciting on the move. Geno struggles with that. He's seen these the last two games. You get Geno on the move, offset throwing passes, they're all over the gaff. They're wobbly, they're low, they're too low, like they're all too high. Like, it's not his forte. But I just also do feel sorry for Geno when I calm down and think about it and say, he's being exposed by his own team right now because he isn't good enough. Like, I'm pretty much sold on that, because for me personally, I don't think he's good enough in the sense that he needs everything. It seemingly means at this moment in time, he needs all his pieces to work for him to look good. Now, I feel like at the current moment in time, with the state of the play calling, with the state of the O-line, unfortunately for Geno, he's being exposed at the moment by his own team. If anything, it's so fucked because we were 5-2, and it's almost like Waldron's not helping him out. The O-line's not helping him out. Like, and all the things he gets away with in a game when everything's clicking, he's now not getting away with, and he's getting exposed so badly.
I'll point something else out to you, Pez, something you haven't mentioned. I'll just buy into what you're saying there and add something in on top. Last year, we were predicted to be a losing franchise, right? And Geno was coming in. There was no expectation. No one expected us to be a top 5 side in the NFL or a top 2-3 side in the NFC. And everything that he did, the good and the bad, was an overachievement on what we expected. This year, we're better. The defense is better. Clint Hurt has had a really good impact on our defense. We're now thinking, okay, over to you, offense. Last year we didn't have the D. Now you've got it. Go show us what you can do. We've got JSN in there. We've drafted a few offensive players on the offensive line as well. And then Geno has been very inconsistent, has gone missing for a quarter or two in games, and I feel like the expectation has moved on from a losing franchise for last year to a competing franchise this year. We're supposed to be contenders. We've still got the same above average quarterback we had last year. Like last year, it was an above average quarterback in a team that was expected to lose. Now we've got an above average quarterback in a team that's expected to be up there with the Niners, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and he's falling short. That, I think, lends to what you're saying. I would say that he's probably playing on a similar level to last year, and Waldron's play calling has been pretty bad. Last year, if you remember, we leaned really heavily on Ken, and Ken was brilliant. This year, we're not just not leaning on Ken, we're not leaning on our running backs at all. We've had one game where we did it, and Pete Carroll came out and he went, "That's our identity. We should be running, 60% runs and 40% passing plays. That's our identity." We haven't done it since.
I do agree, and whilst we're just chucking players who've been chucked under the bus by their own team, if you want to look at it from a different angle, instead of just like I've just been on a rant there about Geno, James has been on a rant about Waldron, and like I said before I started my rant about Geno, it's like I'm not just going to go, "Yeah, James, you're right," and then that's it. You want context, you want opinions and varied opinions. And my piece on Waldron is, do you know, you were talking then, Mitch, and it clicked in my head, like I was unfair on Geno to the point where it said he must be the most readable quarterback. But you're right in what you're saying, Mitch, that it's so hard to fully understand until that 4-game stretch, and that could get really ugly. But after that 4-game stretch, I think there'll be enough evidence on tape to show, is it the offensive coordinator who's been exposed by teams, or is it Geno who's been exposed by teams? Because one of them two is making it very, very fucking easy for teams to understand what we are trying to do, and just shutting it completely down. I started by saying other players who've been thrown under the bus by the teams. Zach Charbonnet, feels so sorry for him, because do you know all this? Everyone who's listening, take yourself out of the bench Geno, kill Waldron situation. Get yourself out of there, get some fresh air. Look at it from a different perspective. Ken Walker's clearly not 100%. At the end of the day, you don't have an elite running back like that and then not use him at all. Like when you've got Pete Carroll as your head coach who just loves running the football. If he's not running the football, that's because he doesn't have trust in the run game. Now, to me, that screams you don't have trust in Zach Charbonnet to be able to lead the run game. Now, I feel sorry for him, because I've always had a thing saying he needs time to build. I don't think he's on the level of Ken. James has been from the get-go. I think he is. This stretch of games when he's been used more than Ken, either they've reverted from doing the run, or they've not put him in a situation to run the football. And I feel sorry for him as a player, because if it carries on like this, a lot of the bitter fans in the franchise are going to start looking externally to see who else they can start pointing fingers at. And I feel sorry for that young guy, because I think he's going to get chucked right under the bus with Geno, with Waldron eventually. just catching strays all over the gaff soon, I reckon, because he's not Ken Walker and he's not the type of running back who does what Ken Walker does. And they're not even giving him the confidence to say, we trust you, Zach. Go and prove why you're a second rounder. Like, that's something for you. I don't know if you two agree with me on that, but I do feel sorry for the guy. I really do, because I feel like he's been thrown clean under the bus.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite ready for the RB1 workload yet. I think, like we've always said, he's going to be a project that takes time, and he will come good eventually. But in terms of my last bit on Geno before we move off elsewhere, in terms of the way you're saying chuck it under the bus, that sums it up perfectly for me, how I feel about Geno. He's being so thrown under the bus by his coaches, by fans, and I'm not pointing any fingers or anything like that, because people, I'm not over the moon with how Geno's playing. But to put it into some kind of context, Geno Smith had 3,000 odd passing yards, nearly 4,000 practically. Well, yeah, I think he did have 4,000 passing yards last season, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a 100 passer rating. Patrick Mahomes had a 105 passer rating, and Geno Smith had a better passer rating, or effectively equivalent, to Joe Burrow last season, and Joe Burrow was fully healthy. Like, Geno Smith is a very good quarterback. When you give him the time, he is a very good quarterback. He throws an absolutely exceptional ball. He throws the best ball in football. And last season, he's had the equivalent of a passer rating to Joe Burrow, and only 5 worse than Patrick Mahomes. So I cannot get on board, sort of 9 weeks, whatever we are into the season, saying Geno Smith is just an average, above average. To me, he's not. When you give him time, Geno, to me, can be an elite quarterback and can dissect teams in an elite fashion. But you put him behind this offensive line, I question anyone to name me 2 quarterbacks in the NFL that would look good behind this offensive line and in this system that Shane Waldron's calling right now. I question it would be Patrick Mahomes and it would be Lamar Jackson, who we've just faced. They're the only 2.
My final word on Geno before we leave. I'm just going to say that we are currently, as a fan base, expecting Geno to be an elite quarterback and be highly consistent behind a different offensive line every week, and Shane Waldron calling the most horrible combination of plays without using our running backs. So I think we are a little harsh on Geno, honestly. I know in the moment it's easy to point the finger because he's basically got a spotlight on him, but there are other forces at play there that are not pulling their weight, and we're still expecting the same standard from Geno. And I think he's not been great, don't get me wrong, but he's nowhere near as bad as it looks, is my take.
Yeah, the issue is what's happening at the moment. Like I said, my irrational in-game situation is Geno. Everyone's is. Like, honestly, every fan is, because when you're watching it, he is the offense.
Under the spotlight, yeah.
He is the leader of the offense, and he embodies the play calling, his own play, the running backs, the wide receivers, the throwing of the football. And do you know what it is? My final thing with this Waldron Geno thing is, it's like I said, they were together last year with a not good offensive line. They still managed to put up points. Like, they still managed to stick in with teams. Geno managed to get it done. Everyone just stopped trying to find out who's wrong and just say it's all of them. It's both of them. Geno, at this moment in time, isn't doing things to the standard what he did last year when he has the opportunity, and Waldron isn't calling a good game. Everyone remember, with Waldron, he's a tight ends coach. Whenever we use them, whether that's in 12 personnel as blockers or in the passing game, we are effective. What did we not see in this game? Tight ends. But it's everyone. It doesn't matter. Like, the fan base, I saw a tweet and someone put it perfectly, saying, everyone stop trying to point the fingers at someone and just say it's all of them. At the end of the day, it's all of them. Now, I'll chuck a question in there, because personally, I don't know where else we speak. But I gave you this question off air, so I'm interested to see, because Mitch said he'll save his reaction on air. So with that being said, whenever these last couple of weeks, in my head, the first thing that pops into my head is it's pretty much a mirror of what we experienced last year with this offense, just with a better defense. But this offense, mid-season, like the NFL's so hard to digest and remember things unless it's good, because one week you move on. Like this week, the Ravens is going to be in the past. By the weekend, everyone's going to get their hopes high again. Everyone's going to be like, we're at home, Commanders, they're shit. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to batter him, forgetting that we just got absolutely bodied. But whenever I think about what we're going through right now, it just reminds me of last year. Ken playing injured. People question where has he disappeared to in some games because he's not being used, and then it appears back end of the year he comes back again and it's like, oh, I wasn't 100%. We don't have a same situation. We don't have a running back room. Ken had to do it all by himself. Zach's having to do it all by himself. Kenny McIntosh has to be back this week, or else he's back on the IR again. They have to play him this week. But it just screams deja vu from last year. The Geno struggles, the Waldron questions, everything questions. So I'm interested to see if you agree with me on that, because I did ask you, because I wanted you to properly digest it and give it a good think. With an extra thing I'll chuck in there, is Pete Carroll getting away with questions not being pointed his way? Because at the end of the day, like I've always said since I've started this podcast, he is the captain of the ship. That offense has been taking shots in the bow. Is that right for a ship name? Anyone know ships? Chucking out bow?
Bow is part of a ship, yeah.
Right, perfect. We'll go with that. Taking shots in the bow, and it slowly sank like the Titanic for weeks now, and he's done nothing about it by the looks of it. So that's a little extra caveat at the end.
James, you want to go first, or shall I go?
You can go first, Mitch.
There's a couple of factors there. I think Geno really does revolve around momentum and confidence, and when he gets going, he's quite sort of methodical with the way he works. He just doesn't take many risks, and he protects the ball well. And when you look at 7 interceptions in 6 games, I think it's worse than that, actually. It's more like 4 or 5 games. But it's a lot of interceptions this year. And he had a similar spell in the middle of last year, which is what you're mentioning. And I think when his confidence gets down and he starts to take some throws that he maybe shouldn't, and he gets away from his actual sort of strengths and his solid mentality, and I think it could be a confidence thing. I think also, like you said, we had the issues with the run game then, and I think we've got the issues with the run game now. Whether it's through injury, I'm not sure. I haven't heard that Ken's injured. I think we've kind of ventured away from it a little bit. When you don't establish the run game, it doesn't open up the yard, the yards of separation for the other guys. You really do need to establish that, so that teams are second guessing what you're going to do. If that threat of the run game isn't there, they're shaping up in schemes to stop the throw, and then his windows become narrower to make his throws. They know that they're rushing. Everything becomes an obvious pass rush scenario. You see what I mean? If you take them away, if you take teams away from that with the threat of the run, his job becomes a lot easier. He can get back into rhythm. He's been knocked out of stride. He's not been allowed to get back into stride. His confidence is getting crushed game after game. And a lot of it is due to us not presenting a game plan with Waldron that allows him to lean on that run game and take the easy throws that present themselves off the back of that. That's my take, and I think that's exactly what happened mid-season. I don't think it's a Geno slump. I think it's an overall thing that's a combination of run game, Waldron, and Geno's confidence. That's my take.
So would you say it is like last year then? Because it sounds like
I think it is exactly like that, but I think the reasons are different. Last year, the running game packed in because of injuries. I think this year, Waldron's play calling has moved away from it. He's not had that to lean on. And then other teams then find him very predictable because everything is a pass rush scenario. He gets more pressure on him, less time in the pocket. And the guys in coverage are expecting him to make those throws.
And the Pete Carroll question. Do you think he's getting away with too much? Because I've been very, very polite with that man all season. And I want to just want to see the temperature check on the guy.
Do we think Waldron's earned the respect to be allowed to have the control to just call plays fairly freely? Or do you think he still gets guidance from Pete to say, let's lean on the run game. Let's try and get at least X amount of runs in. Let's, try and get a run in on first or second down every drive, like every set of downs. I don't know. But if, like I said earlier, Pete Carroll was immediately on his hype for the split of runs and passes when we had that game where we had a lot of runs, and we've just got away from it without saying a word about it. So maybe there is some flack there for Pete Carroll, because he's clearly acknowledged what works well and why our offense works well, and then hasn't held Waldron to that sort of structure. Maybe that's a thing.
For me, when you have back-to-back weeks of Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet having 13 combined carries, that Pete Carroll's got nothing to do with that offense. Because if Pete Carroll had anything to do with that offense, them two are running the ball far more than that. So I think Shane Waldron is absolutely calling that offense over the last two games. Now, whether that changes, it's hard to say now, because if it changes, after the back of that game, you'd expect things would change. So if they start running the ball more next week, I still wouldn't be like, oh, well, that's Pete Carroll back then. I just think they'd probably have to do that anyway to command our offense to try and fix these problems. But I'm completely in agreement with you, Mitch, in terms of it is deja vu, but for the different kind of reasons. Like I say, you're spot on in terms of last year it was running backs. Now it's tight end inclusion and calling unfriendly quarterback players, and it is just going wrong for the wrong reasons. And for that, I think when you look at that, it's a common denominator there in Shane Waldron. So for me, if we're coming back to this stage of the year and asking these kind of questions again, is it deja vu? To me, that's not a good sign on Shane Waldron, in my opinion.
Could just to chuck a response to both your things about it is, but for different reasons. Is that not just because our expectations are higher on Geno and Waldron as a pairing this year? Like Mitch said, we went in last year with nothing to lose, and now
we want to contend. Yeah.
Now we want to contend. That's why it feels like deja vu, but a bit different. Because last year we were on this pod just being like, "Oh, we won, wicked, yeah, let's have a fun."
Well, I'll say this about that: we're not going to contend as an offense if we show the same level of inability to adapt to what defenses are doing in that game, and the same in the Bengals game. We showed a serious lack of imagination and adaptability in both games, and we ended up losing both. Granted, the Bengals game we were close to winning. This one we were miles off it. But from the first drive, we didn't adapt throughout the game. So if we genuinely want to rock up to a Super Bowl and actually win it within the next couple of years, we have to be able to play a complete game on offense that incorporates all of our weapons, remains unpredictable, gives Geno an extra yard of space because teams don't know what we're going to be doing, allows teams not to constantly rush him because everything's a passing down. There's a lot to fix on our play calling if we're going to truly contend before we look to replace Geno. Yeah. Get that right, see what he looks like when our offense is working. And maybe we don't need to be drafting quarterbacks. Maybe we don't need to be trading. Maybe we can do it with what we've got if we called a better game.
Yeah. For me, when you look at third down efficiency, 1 for 12. That's a Shane Waldron stat. That's not a Geno stat. If you're going for 1 for 12 on third down, that's not your quarterback. That is your play calling on third down. Same with fourth down. Same with the red zone. Same with first downs. If we can only get 6 first downs compared to 29, that for me, that's not as much on Geno as it is a Shane Waldron stat. So there's definitely things going wrong for different reasons.
You make a good point, Mitch. There, just says if anyone wants like a point finger situation, if that makes you feel better and like kind of settles you to justify the situation, Geno, in my opinion, Waldron was to blame. As we discussed and listening to your opinions and stuff, Waldron's to blame for this last game.
100%.
In my opinion, Geno was to blame for the Bengals loss because Geno did some key. I'd say
because our biggest problem was all those red zone visits where we looked absolutely like we didn't have an idea in our head about what would get us a touchdown. That there weren't execution issues with Geno there on a lot of those. It was just horrible plays and abandoning the run in the red zone, which had got us all of our red zone touchdowns that year. What are they doing?
I get it. But what I'm trying to say is Geno is, if you want to like say Geno's not to blame for this last game, it's Waldron. Geno is to blame for that Bengals game, in my opinion, because how many red zone visits did we have where we could have picked up 3 points and our defense had completely shut the Bengals down, and all we needed was a field goal, the JSN interception, another one, and then another one. He did 3 times in the red zone. He could have played it safe, but he chose to act like wanting to be a hero and force the issue, and he cost us 6 to 9 points, and that's why I'm saying, in fairness,
ball security threw it away. Yeah, okay, I take that point.
In fairness, if you got to balance it out, you do have to balance it out. Like, you've got to understand that some people are only just coming to the realization that Waldron's an issue. So you have to put it as simple as that, in my opinion, as simple as that. Geno cost us 6 to 9 points in the Bengals game. That was on him, not on anyone else. You can say the play call and you can say this, that, and the other. He threw the football to JSN.
I'm just pinching myself because I cannot believe Pez is being the voice of reason on this podcast. I can't believe it.
Well, I just want to say this, Pez. Like,
I think I'm just emotionally broken.
You are absolutely right. That Geno, his ball security when we were in field goal range in that game cost us points. We left some points out there because of that. 100% agree. But I would say we probably, if we left six points out there, saying that that's maybe 2 field goals, right? We left an awful lot more out there in the red zone with bad play calling. You know, there's a few in there where it really should have been a touchdown, maybe 10 to 14 points there with bad play calling, as opposed to 6 on the field goal. We don't need to be thinking about field goals if we're cruising through the red zone like we should be with the weapons we've got.
I get what you're saying, but don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not defending Waldron. They're both.
Maybe they share that blame on the Bengals. I just don't like Geno wearing all of that because I saw other stuff as well.
Because it's fair enough, you can see other stuff. But like I just said, the game is done. It's dusted. That's why I simply break it down after the matter of the fact is Geno cost us. And that's the simplest of fact. I am not saying Waldron didn't do wrong because, as we said, and we've kind of, I feel like we've done a good job of highlighting to everyone who's listening, they are both at fault. They both have their faults. They were together last year. They had a lot of success. They had a lot of faults last year. They had a lot of down periods last year. This year, they are having a lot more. Some have been very sweetly kept under the rug by winning, but at the end of the day, the offensive coordinator and the QB, they come together, they're a pair. It doesn't matter. One falls, the other falls with them. It's simple. Yep. How many times did Russ? Fuck me, we've lived through it for 10 years. Look at Russell Wilson with no offensive line. He still managed to get shit done with no offensive line, right? But how many offensive coordinators did that guy get sacked?
2.
Thing is, though, with Russ, it's because of how mobile he was. That was an added threat to defenses. When they shaped up their scheme, it had to factor in Russell Wilson like that. If you remove the run game from our repertoire of play calling, and you don't have a mobile quarterback, that's 2 different things that your opponent doesn't have to factor in. And if you're getting good pressure, you can take the deep ball out, so you can bring the 2 high safeties up and forget DK and Tyler on the deep ball, because then we haven't got enough time for that to mature. All of a sudden, you get this compact unit of no space for you to connect your throws, nowhere to run the ball. Everything Geno does is in a hurry, and also you've got an extra. They started throwing safeties into every blitz. You started having Queen and Hamilton buzzing around Geno on every play, unpicked up, because they removed the need for them to be in other packages. So with Russ there, granted he had a worse offensive line, but he was mobile and was getting out of the pocket and removing some of that.
I'm not comparing Russ and Geno because they are two different quarterbacks. I was just making the point that the QB and the OC, they come together as a pair. It doesn't matter. That's why I'm saying, hate Geno all you want and think that the play calling is not that bad. Think that Waldron's absolutely awful to play calling shit and give Geno a break.
The fact
You're
is
both
that
right.
The whole thing isn't working.
You're both right, but you need to just not argue with each other, because I'm seeing it. People are like, no, Waldron, and they're going, no, just stop and realise you are both right. Like, you're both right. They come as a pair. They come as a duo. At the end of the day, Geno Smith is a 30-odd-year-old man, been in the league for a very long time. If he cannot go up to an OC who's 2 years into the game or 3 years into the game and say, listen, mate, what you're doing is not good for me. You're making me look bad, because Geno doesn't have enough years left on the clock in this league. Now, if I was Geno, 30-odd-year-old, knowing full well he's not doing it right for me, I'd be going to Pete or I'd be going to Waldron. I go to Waldron, obviously, first, because you need that connection. If he's not listening to me, I go to Pete and go, at the end of the day, I don't have time to fuck around with this guy who's not listening to me. So they come as a pair. So think Geno's bad, think Waldron's bad. They're both to blame because they're in bed with each other. Just remember that fact. Just remember that fact. And then also remember, because it's coming back to that time of the season, Pete Carroll runs the ship. Just don't forget that.
Well, that's a nice way to leave them too. Before we get to the defense, a quick shout out: Jackson Smith and Jigba leading our offense in terms of receptions and yards. 6 receptions for 63 yards, 10.5 yards average. Excellent from him. Yet another display. He's one of the bright sparks on the offense in terms of recent weeks. So great for him again. But
so
what I will say,
he
is sexy to watch. That's what the S in JSN stands for. It's not Smith. It's Jackson, Sexy, and Jigba. So that's awful. That's absolutely horrendous.
It's got a real ring to it.
You could tell I thought of that on the fly. But what I was getting to in terms of before we get to the defense, I want to quick mention DK Metcalf. Just the one reception. Granted, it was for 50 yards, and so I'm no mathematician, but that's a 50-yard average. So that's pretty outstanding. But we've mentioned DK on the last few weeks, obviously, with his penalties and kind of like the connection, Geno not there. Yes, he's had a 50-yard gain, but again, just one reception for DK.
So, didn't it? Do you know the funny thing about the reception? What I thought was quite hilarious, what you spoke on. Hence why you could probably, this game, even though Geno did some disgusting things, Waldron is to blame for this, because there was a third down, right? And Mitch alluded to it originally about the play calling where everyone's deep. Where's the short guy? And it happened that third down. Third down, Geno's looking. They're like 6 yards past the first down marker. It's like, it's third down, mate. What are you playing at? And look at the best play of that game. DK, where did he receive that ball? On a slant, bang on the first down marker. You look at it and go, the game's fucked anyway now, but what? You've got JSN who lives and breathes that play. DK, one of the biggest bodies in the league, Loves doing it.
Baffling, absolutely baffling. Mitch, any thoughts on this DK expulsion from our offense? What's happening?
No.
No.
No, it's all the things. It's all the things I've mentioned earlier. Honestly, like we're scheming up deep routes for Metcalf, and we send him on go routes, and we're trying to stretch the play. No one's buying it, and they're getting to Geno before that's really a threat. On the very rare occasions we give Geno a pocket to play in, we see the ball end up with DK Metcalf, and he's in there to stretch the defense, and if we have a clean pocket, he hits on a deep ball. We didn't put him in short underneath sort of softer routes and slants, because that was a highly contested area of the field where we had a specialist. We had specialists in there, so. Also, let's not talk about not hitting Metcalf on drives when we basically punted after three snaps every drive. The game didn't open up for him through the scheme and the coverage, and it didn't open up for him in terms of us actually having a proper drive. So I'm not interested in discussing who we did and didn't target, because we just weren't on the field to do it.
When we started the pod, I put a tweet out because I wanted an in-live reaction to people's opinion before we leave the offense in general, is who's at fault for the poor offense. I'm trying, and it's going to be good to see how many numbers we can boost up if you can both like retweet it or something, try and get as many people. We've got 22 votes at the moment, and it's only been going for half an hour. Geno, Waldron, the banged up O-line, and Pete. Currently, at the moment, Geno's got 9%. You're going to love this, James, so I'm going to save it till the last. Banged up O-line's 27%. Pete's 9%. Waldron, anyone
60.
do quick maths? 55%.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get it retweeted. I'm trying to retweet it and get it out there as much as I possibly can to get people's attention on it. And I'll come back and check it and see if we can get a bit more of a...
I don't think that'll change, though. I think that's the trend. I think people at the time, knee-jerk reaction, all in on Geno. But actually, when you start to look at some of the stats, the dial kind of ends up just pointing at Waldron.
Yeah.
So, like my nice, irrational rant at Geno.
Yeah. No, but you know what? We've come at it from all the different angles, and we've all ended up... like, none of us are of the opinion that Waldron is exempt from any of this.
The perfect thing that sums that up, that nobody is sitting there with 0%. Everyone has picked out someone to blame.
Agreed.
So that sums it up.
Do you know what I should have done as an option as we finished? What I should have done was Waldron / Geno together. And let's see how many people think it's just both of them. But we'll come
with another one tomorrow.
Remind me towards the end, and I'll see where we land before we finish.
Okay, though. Well, let's get to the defense then. I'll read out the stat sheet. Boye and Mafe, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and that's the stat sheet. Jordan,
a very important sack.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa.
What?
The best play on defense. Jordan Brooks, deep coverage, gonna be a guaranteed touchdown. Nah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. He just does what he wants. He's a fucking monster. He does. The guy does whatever he wants. 11 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass defense, because he just does what he wants. He's an animal, an absolute animal. He can't cover. The game would have been, quick maths, 44-3 if it wasn't for JB just doing his thing. Just does what he wants. Don't matter. ACL, fuck it. I'll come back early. I've up 3 points on Madden on my pass coverage. I'm an absolute missile in anything else. You like it, James?
Don't ever. Don't ever do that again and go, oh yeah, at the same time.
Oh yeah. That's a good clip, though. I didn't even realise I was doing that at the same time.
Jordan Brooks, yes, I was going to get to him. leading the team in tackles and assisted tackles. But Boye Mafe, that's the play of the game. The sack fumble, yes, Brooks's was good, but Boye Mafe, that's the play of the game for me on defense. Sack and fumble, absolutely exceptional again. Again, the only real bright spark other than Jordan Brooks on defense for me, I thought Tariq was fairly poor. I thought Witherspoon was fairly poor. I thought the safeties. Do you know what? I thought Julian Love did all right for me. I thought he'd had a few nice stops and coverage moments and stuff like that. So I thought Julian Love did okay. But I was disappointed with Tariq and I was disappointed with Witherspoon. But when you put the defense on the field that much in a game, I can't. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, I'm absolutely so disappointed with Devon Witherspoon. I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying in terms of the defense being on the field that much, that was a weaker game for them all, but it's going to be when you put them on the field that much. But those are the only real talking points for me on the defense in terms of Boye, Mafe, Jordan Brooks. But did you see anything from the defense that went wrong or any good spots?
Spoon nearly got that pick, didn't he?
He did.
Did he get targeted much in the pass? Because a lot of the things that I thought he did poor was in the run. He seemed to. Do you know what I will say? What was really piss poor? What told me we are going to die this game was we went down early to the 2 touchdowns, right? And this team, this defense, they did it. When did he do it? They did it another game this year. And someone made a point in our Discord and they started doing it again this game. They didn't just tackle. They were trying to strip the ball every time. They weren't wrapping the guy up. So the run stats, in my opinion, are quite padded because guys were getting to them, but they were so obsessed with trying to make a play on the ball, ripping the ball out, and then the guy was just getting loose on them. Like, just wrap the fucking guy up. But that was at 14-3. To me, that was... I said it to my wife when we were watching. I said, we're fucked. We're fucked. If the defense is reacting like that at 14-3, in the game, I said they don't have faith in our offense one little bit. When they're playing like that, that's desperation mode, and you're only 14-3 into the game. You're trying to make actual strip plays on the ball instead of just making your tackles, doing your assignments. That is on them for doing it. But to me, that showed the bigger concern was that defense, I don't think, had any confidence in that offense from what they first seen. So they were already trying to make plays. They were trying too hard, too early. Normally, you find that happening when you maybe 3 scores down, not straight away in the game. No chance. And I knew we were fucked from that point because if them lot start playing uncharacteristically, we've got no hope.
Yeah. Well, I said something last week, Mitch, before I come on to you, in terms of even though he didn't have an amazing game, PJ Walker, I was concerned as to how poorly we defended the read option going against Lamar Jackson, who is the best read option quarterback in football, and he's absolutely gashed us in the read option. So I was concerned with that last week, and then I thought, yes, it's only PJ Walker, but we did not defend that read option well, and then just again another bad week in run defense. 298 rushing yards for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, it's not something we've become attested to with the Seahawks defense this year. Is this run D becoming a problem, or is it just a kind of a bit of just 2 bad weeks, and hopefully you write it off and it isn't much of a problem? Are they just having a little bit of a bad form, or are you seeing some things that you might be a little bit concerned with?
I'm concerned with teams using our defensive line's aggressiveness against them. Draymond Jones had a pass rush. I think his rating was 27 on PFF this week. And he was getting gashed every time. And I think what you're seeing is a unit that have been really good at rushing the passer and defending the run whilst being aggressive, being exposed by the Browns with screens, lots of screen plays as they do, bubble screens and stuff, which works great against your aggressiveness. They also got the run going against the pass rush. In those situations, and then you've also got a similar situation there with Lamar, where people are then questioning their instincts when, like with Spoon, where he's coming up to fit the run and help out, and then it's not a run, and then starts questioning his instincts. That's when they get a bit more time to pick their plays, and that's exactly what you want when you've got someone like Lamar Jackson, is a defense that are questioning their instincts and aren't getting into you and making contacts at the line. So that's what I'm seeing. I think both teams have schemed really well to play our aggressiveness against us.
Is it just me as well, or did I not see? I don't know if I'm right. I don't know whether I'm just making this up in my head, but it kind of feels like to me we've blitzed less in recent weeks. Is that something that you lads feel? I don't know whether I'd have to go back and watch it, but I just sit in. I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're blitzing a little bit less, or I don't know. Something's changed a little bit on the D line for me. I can't quite pinpoint it, but that was something that came to mind.
I think you could be right there, and maybe Clint Hurt tried big braining his approach to this game. Change, like, you know how they say play down to your opponent. Sometimes you respect your opponent too much. You don't just play your game. And if they beat you at your game, they're just better than you. But then when you start adapting to things that have been working and who you are as a person, and like Mitch always preaches, like halftime adjustments, in-game adjustments and things like that. If you just don't go out there from the off and be the defense who you are, and you try and change it because of who you're playing, I know you have to a degree, but do you know where I'm coming from with this?
Yeah, you maintain your identity and
yes.
try and cut off your opponent's strengths at the same time without going too far away from what you do well.
Yes, exactly. And I just feel like in this Ravens game, the defense did that. They like, you do have to respect Lamar. That is true. Like, you do. He's on a heater at the moment. His confidence is flying. You can see it from the start of the year to now. He is on fire. Last time we played him, this was exactly the same. So anyone who thinks the Ravens, they are really good. That defense is really good. But we pretty much, it's identical to when we last played him, except for it's pissing down with rain.
How can you remember that? I can't even remember that.
It was pissing down with rain. Lamar ran up.
Slippery day, wasn't it?
I just remember KJ had Lamar dead to rights on the edge, and he just slipped on his ass. So Lamar just danced past him. Like, that sticks in my head. Like, Lamar danced all over us, but it's just like deja vu to that game. It's like they're not learned anything. Or again, big brained, saw that game, was like, they're playing quite similar to what they were then. Let's do this. It's like, no, just do you. And if they beat you at your game, then they are just fucking better on you than the day. So then if next time, say, like as they do say, if we meet them in the Super Bowl, we know their game plan type thing. Whereas now, we tried to outplay them by being cute and got our asses handed to us fucking on both ends of the ball.
They are a horrible matchup for us.
Oh, 100%.
They're a horrible matchup for a lot of people, but you really see it. Sometimes they narrowly get past a bad team. We are a good team. Genuinely, I think we're a good team. That matchup of styles really played to their favour, and we were terrible at adjusting to them.
So
I do want to mention something. I want to give someone a shout out here, because I feel like with all the negativity and stuff, it would be nice to shine a spotlight on someone. Boye Mafe, with his 6th consecutive sack, 6 games in a row with a sack, is a franchise record. There's only one player ever in our history that's gone 6 games in a row with a sack. So should he suit up against the Manders and get himself a sack next week, he will be the record holder for our franchise. And he has earned that. He has been our most consistent player this season. Just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, you are completely right. He's the shining light on a really good defense. Like, this is it. We have spoke in a more negative light. You can't really speak anywhere else for the 37-3 loss. But people just need to remember, this shit happens, like, to teams. This stuff happens to teams. Like, when the Bucks won it that year, they weren't great all year. Like, again, people's perspective in this club is, oh, we're good. Legion of Boom 2.0. No. They're just themselves. Find a new name. Give them a new cute little name if you want to. They're not
Legion
the
of
Legion of
Spoon.
Boom.
Legion of Spoon.
Legion of Spoon. Dude, call them whatever makes you feel good at night. Call them whatever you fucking want, but they are not the Legion of Boom. You are never going to find a group of players like that ever again. Never, ever in a million years. Because do you know why? Because they attacked each other. They attacked the offense. I said it in the Discord. I want this defense, with how chirpy they are, I want Spoon, Jamal, all them to start giving that offense shit. I want Geno pissed off. I want DK pissed off. I want Tyler like, nah, well, Tyler don't get pissed off. He's just like, yeah, man, whatever. I want that offense. I want Ken pissed off. I want them all pissed off to pull their fucking heads out their ass, but it wouldn't happen because it's not that type of team. That's why they're not the Legion of Boom 2.0. They're all friendly. They're all happy. They all go and hug trees together and all that.
It needs another addressing by Bobby Wagner, I think. Like the one we had against after the first game of the year, just to get people's heads out of their asses. I do still think that a lot of it lies with Waldron, with what's gone wrong and what hasn't been good in our first sort of 8 games. 8 games? Yes, 8 games. 5 and 3. But I do feel like people need to take a bit more responsibility for some of these things as well.
Just on the defense, whilst we were there, you made a good point, Mitch. What I wanted to expand upon with the defense and the Ravens, they're a matchup nightmare to us. And do you know what clicked in my head? Do you know who they're a nightmare matchup to really in this organization? Pete Carroll. Do you know why? I've said this for many years now. Before you came on, Mitch, and I've mentioned it when you've been with us. Our biggest issue as a franchise is Pete Carroll cannot match up to what the new big boys of this division, the new big boys of the league do. The Ravens being one. He got smoked last time. And I bet the change in our philosophy, you could almost say, when things like that happen, Pete Carroll normally steps in and goes, I think we need to do this. But he can't do it against he can't do it. Couldn't do it last year against the Chiefs when we went up against them. They just bladdered us all over the gaff. The Ravens bladdered us all over the gaff. Multiple playoff berths by an explosive offense. The Rams game with McVay. Any young, exciting, offensive-minded coach always has Pete Carroll's number. And again, that is a little... We're nowhere near that conversation yet because we've just come out of absolute shower of shit. But people need to keep that in mind. When these big games come, Pete likes to get involved a little bit too much. And a lot of the times when that does happen, funky shit goes down. Like he's leaving the offense clearly to just do what the fuck they want. And then big brain the defense.
Yeah, there's 2 final things I want to say on the defense before we wrap it up that I've learned from that game that are still problems and still aren't being addressed and fixed. One, tackling. Missed tackling was atrocious. As I said in the Discord, couldn't find tackle in a fishing shop. That I can't even remember what play it was where 3 of them absolutely fucking dragging and swiping at his fucking heels. Can't even tackle him. Atrocious that tackling technique. Just when you thought, oh yeah, it might have been a jet. No, it's still wildly inconsistent in that secondary. So that hasn't been fully or properly addressed yet. That needs properly addressing. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting gashed on running plays and explosive players like that. And I just wish it's not going to happen, as you have alluded to there with Pete Carroll. It's not going to happen because it's the way he plays his defenses. But I fucking hate soft defense. I hate it with a passion. And I hate it with a passion when you have the fastest secondary in the NFL. You have the fastest corners in the NFL, and you want to play 10 yards off your man at the line of scrimmage. It makes no sense. You're talking about moving with the times and getting with the times. I can't even think on my two hands how many teams in this NFL still run soft defenses the way we run soft defense. It's just not how you do it anymore. People get man coverage. They press at the line of scrimmage. We've got 3 corners like Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen who can run with any receiver in the NFL. Tariq Woolen is almost as big as any receiver in the NFL, strong. Put him in press coverage, get him at man coverage. You're taking away, like I've said before on this podcast, you play soft coverage when you have a slow defense, when you have slow corners and you have slow safeties, so they can't beat them over the top. Why are we worrying about teams beating us over the top when we've got, as you've seen, even Jordan Brooks in that coverage on Andrews running with that? We've got linebackers who are extremely quick. We've got safeties who are extremely quick, corners who are lightning fast, and we play soft prevent defense. Just it makes no sense to run your defense like that. But they're not going to change it. They don't change it. It's been this way regardless of who we've got. I just look at this secondary we've got down. I think if there's anything you shouldn't be doing with these, though, it's playing them 10 yards off the man at the line of scrimmage.
That's Pete Carroll's game.
Well,
Pete Carroll's game. Do you know the difference is, and this is why you make a very valid point to why this team will never be like the Legion, like they're not the Legion of Boom, because Sherman wasn't the quickest, but he used the 10 yards to his advantage because he wasn't fast. So, but he was intelligent. He used the 10 yards and adapted it, and that worked for him. And that's why Pete created this, because it worked for them. Not when you've got Spoon and Trey and Tariq, who can line up man to man and literally cover any wide receiver pretty much in the league. So yeah, I totally agree. But like you said, it's never going to change because of Pete.
No. Any final thoughts, Mitch, or anyone before we wrap it up?
No, this has been great closure though for me, with how painful this was yesterday. I do feel like we've dissected it and got really to the meat and drink of what has been a root cause of our problems, not just in this game but also in previous games. It just was a very, very bright spotlight on it because of the margin of defeat in this one. But we've won in spite of this exact issue in smaller doses in previous matches. So I've got my closure. I'm very appreciative to you boys having this chat with me to provide me with the emotional and moral support I needed after that game. I think we've touched on it quite well.
So
good.
To finish the poll as it is, it'll be good next week next week's pod. We'll just let it fester around with time zone differences, get as much we can kind of just have a look. But Geno's going up. He's now at 17%. Waldron's at 52%. Banged up all lines going down the more than anything else, and then Pete's gone up to 10%. So you're starting to see the theme that as more people look at this, I think you're just going to see that balance of Waldron and Geno going together. So just to say that, but I want to finish off because I've seen this tweet here and I think it might be a nice, just positive spin to one of the followers, Kerry Anderson.
Shout out, Kerry.
She's put 10 things she liked about the game. So we'll read through them to finish off. I think it'd be a nice positive to finish off.
Yep.
Can't
First,
be doing
before
a
we
positive
even start, I want to say,
lie.
Kerry, big shout out for finding 10.
Yes.
that is commendable.
So here we are. Geno to DK, 50-yard catch and run. The Trey forced fumble punch. But we should have given more respect in the pod because that was sensational how he... Do you know what? Bad on us. Big brain Trey. If you watch the slow-mos when they're trying to figure it out, he wraps him up. As he spins around, the first thing he looks at is where's the ball, and you see that hand slapping.
Yeah. That was a clear plan all game, I think.
Do you know what? next week when he stands out again, we need to give him his own little solid segment because he has been exactly what we expected when we drafted him.
Yeah,
Like,
I completely
and
forgot about that.
It's also really
sensational.
nice. It's really nice that we've got 2 lockdown corners, 2 really good corners, 2 very young corners, and Trey Brown can come in and be making plays that jump off the sheet just as much, or jump off the screen just as much as the 2 big names. He comes in and we don't feel that drop off in quality. That's an exceptional sort of quality for him, I think.
Right. So number 3 is Bobby Wagner's 10th career FR. Anyone?
Fumble recovery.
Fumble recovery.
Yeah.
Number 4, Jamal Adams' Fury tackle for loss. I can't remember that.
Is this on Twitter, Pez? Because I might need to. Do I need to help?
No. Honestly, it gets. I'll explain. Like it says, Pez Fury TFL.
Is it on Twitter?
Right. Don't try and make me out to be fucking stupid.
I'm
No.
just
Number 5.
No, but
it says under pressure.
It says. It says Pez Fiery tackle for loss.
Fury. I don't know. I can't read.
Fiery.
Yeah, good for you. It's good. It's not the fucking spelling bee.
I was going to
podcast,
say I
isn't it?
didn't see
Piece
any
of shit.
Furies playing for the Ravens. That's
Come on then, you're under pressure now because I'm looking at him.
Under pressure, Geno to toes in JSN.
Yep.
Yeah, is that all right?
Yep, that was a great throw. Yeah.
Yeah, headmaster.
Yep, you're right there.
6, Mafe straps. So fuck's sake.
oh shit.
We've already addressed about 2 seasons ago that I cannot read. Do you know what? Fuck it. I'm done. I'm sorry, Kerry. If you do listen,
what was
I'm
Mafe
done
strapping?
now.
Come on, carry on.
Keep going.
No.
Keep going. This is
Mafe had a strap on.
This is for
No,
Kerry.
I'm done.
Keep
I'm
going.
done. I'm done. No.
Right. Well, I'll read about for
You've
Kerry.
ruined. Just
Thanks,
like Positive Pez. This. Just like Positive Pez. He comes in and he ruins it.
You've ruined it yourself there.
Go on,
You
James.
made an absolute tit of yourself there, son.
Deliver it.
J-Love first down preventions.
Sorry, what was that at the start of the pod? The womb.
Hey.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
thought so as well.
Yeah,
Carry
good
on.
point. Yeah, that's 15, love. 8 K9 one-handed grab, which again I'd forgot about. That was absolutely outrageous. I hope there's a photo of that.
I've not even seen it.
You didn't see that?
It's the one where he dived backwards with one hand and then
What
poured
quarter?
it in. Oh, it was late. It was like 3rd, I think.
Yeah, I'm probably driving to work.
He hit it back to himself and then caught it one-handed. Did you not see it?
It was outrageously good.
I had to drive to work and
look it up.
We'll have to find the clip.
I'm gonna have to find it. I didn't even know that happened.
9 below down the punt near the 2. That is correct as well.
Good.
That was a very good special teams player. And Myers was 100%, which he was. He only had 1 kick, but he was 100%. So yeah, do you know what, Kerry, you've done well.
That's a tongue-in-cheek stat. That one, I like it, Kerry. Well played.
Yeah, Michael Myers, he does put the shits up me, but yeah, he got it through. He did his job. That's what we pay him all that fucking money for. So I guess well done.
Clutching by number 10, but we'll give it.
Yeah, well, she's done well to even get 9. I was over the moon with the Eskridge personally.
No, you weren't.
No, you're right. I wasn't.
Not a single Seahawk fan was.
No, absolutely clutching. Michael Dixon, absolutely excellent, obviously, but for all the wrong reasons. But other than that, yes, that tops off a horrendous performance. And hopefully now, as we head into, it's week 10, isn't it, coming up? That is frightening how quick that's going for right or for wrong. I hope this Sunday rolls around very quickly so we can try and get this one out of our system. The Washington Commanders, Sam Howell. Yeah, should be a good game. It's a great get right opportunity. Like we said, Washington, their defense is going to look a lot different to what it could have looked like a few weeks ago. So I'll be interested to see pass rush wise. I expect our offensive line to hold up a lot better than what they did against the Ravens. I don't want to see another horrendous offensive line performance. If we do, this podcast next week is going to be tough, but we'll do it for you. We'll do it for you. But yeah, I'm expecting a win. I'm expecting a bounce back performance, and that is the belief and the confidence that is going to have to get me through this week. But until then, a big thank you to my fellow co-hosts as always. You can find us on Twitter, or X as it's called. I keep calling it Twitter. I cannot get my head around calling it X. Yeah, I'm going to fuck old Musk. I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. I was there before he had it. You can get us at We Talk Seahawks at Instagram, Twitter, X. You can find the link to our Discord in our pinned tweet. Just search We Talk Seahawks and you'll find it there. You can also find us on TikTok, YouTube. Anywhere you get your social media will be on there. Just search We Talk Seahawks. But for now, until next week, to go Hawks.
Go Hawks.